Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing with the 7 ontological arguments for the existence of God. This is going to be number 2, the conceptual ontological argument for the existence of God. This is a pretty common argument out there. It was offered both by René Descartes as well as Saint Anselm. Let's take a look. So, I offered it as follows. I can conceive of a being of which no greater can be conceived. If such a being does not exist, then I can conceive of a greater being, one that exists. I cannot conceive of a being greater than one of which no greater can be conceived. Therefore, such a being, God, exists. In this video, I will take a look at reasons to believe and accept each of these premises in the conclusion, one by one, and in the next video, I will look at some objections and reasons to deny the premises and the conclusion. Let's get started. So, the first premise, I can conceive of a being of which no greater can be conceived. This is basically saying I can imagine the greatest possible being. I can imagine or think of God. I can conceive of what God might be. It's basically asking someone the question, is it possible for you to conceive of or imagine God? And the idea is that even most atheists will say, well, I don't believe in God, but I could conceive of or imagine God or a possible world where God exists. If such a being does not exist, then I can conceive of a greater being, one that exists. This is very similar to something we saw in the definitional argument. Basically, it's saying that cake that exists is better than cake that doesn't exist. Something existing makes it better. The actual God that exists is better than just the idea of God that exists. So, something that is all perfect and exists is in some way greater than something that is all perfect and does not exist. I cannot conceive of a being greater than one of which no greater can be conceived. Basically, this is saying, if there was a building taller than the tallest building, then that new building would in fact be the tallest building. And it's saying that to be able to conceive of a being greater than one of which no greater can be conceived is just a contradiction. So, we conclude from these premises that therefore such a being, God, exists. Basically, it's saying, if the greatest possible being doesn't exist, then it wouldn't be the greatest possible being. And because we can imagine the greatest possible being, such a being must exist. And let's just call that greatest possible being God, because there's no other real word we would have for the greatest possible being. That was the conceptual ontological argument for the existence of God. In the next video, I'm going to take a look at a number of objections to that argument. And then, next week, we will be taking a look at, Plantinga's famous modal ontological argument for the existence of God, which is circulating out around the YouTube these days, followed by the Meinonian, the Mariological, the religious experience argument, and finally the higher order argument. Watch this video and more here at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.